been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Yeah. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. The Lord our God is ever faithful. He's never changing through the ages. From this darkness, you will lead us, and forever we will sing. You're the Lord our God. The Lord our God is He's faithful and never changes. From this darkness, you will lead us, and forever we'll say, you're the Lord. You're the one we love. You're the one we trust. Yes, we lean on you for every moment. Yes, I know who goes before me. I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever, He is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. Who goes before, stands behind, who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my You're by our side. You've never left. We thank you, Jesus. We trust you, God. God, I look to you. I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you. You're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom. You know just what to do. I love you, Lord, my strength. I love you, Lord, my shield. And I love you, Lord, my rock. Forever all my days, I will love to you, God. We trust you in any season. You're with us. We trust you, God. Come on, let's sing this together. Sing hallelujah.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Birmingham Bible Church, where we are guided by the Spirit. We are living out the word, and we are pointing people to the way. You have just joined us for our Winning Wednesday segment, and we are so excited and so glad to have you here on today. This is a time where we like to decree and declare that you are a winner. That's right. You are victorious. As a matter of fact, the word of God says, but thanks be to God who has given us the victory. And victory over what? That's victory over our finances, our health, our relationships, wherever you may be feeling a little defeated right now, God has given you the victory. And so I'm excited about the discussion that's about to take place on today. I noticed that on today and actually all this week, if you've been on Facebook, school is now in session. A lot of parents are posting pictures of their children, their first day of school, and it's wonderful. So the kids are going back, the principals, teachers, school staff, everybody is going back. And so this is a great topic for those who are going back to school, who are in school, but it's also a universal topic this topic can apply to everybody. As the old preachers used to say, from the White House to the outhouse, this is for everybody in between. And so this topic is about handling conflict. It is a struggle to get along with people that you, let's say, work with, that you go to school with, that you live with. But all of us have experienced some type of conflict. And so this is I think, an awesome topic. So listen, make sure you are sharing this on your social media pages. You can copy the link and text it to somebody. As a matter of fact, we like to say tag 3 people. Well, yesterday, Pastor said tag 35 people and text 35 people. So we're going to tag 35 people and text 35 people about this topic that is going on today. And we could not think of anybody better who can speak on this than our guest for today. She is highly, and I do mean highly, sought after as a speaker, as a life coach. If you follow her on Instagram, if you follow her on Facebook, she has a plethora just of knowledge. She is very experienced and can talk to a lot of issues, but I am so glad that she is here with us today to talk about this particular issue of handling conflict. Her name is Denise Hamilton, and she is the CEO of Watch Her Work. So I welcome all of you who are on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Welcome with me, Denise Hamilton. Hey, Denise.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I am so glad that you're here. We had you, I believe last year you spoke during our Women's Month, and you did such a phenomenal job. And so I'm so glad that you could come again here and be with us here on today to talk about this topic of handling conflict. Before we get started, please just let our viewers know just a little bit about you, just what you've done, and just kind of set the stage for us.
Sure. I have one of the most interesting jobs in America, I think, right now. I am an inclusion strategist, which means I go into organizations, predominantly white organizations, that are struggling with diversity issues. And I'm kind of the fixer that they call in when they've had a major incident or they're having trouble kind of getting adoption of inclusion practices within the organization, and just try to help navigate that conflict and find common ground and figure out how to move the organization forward. So I kind of live in a conflict-laden world, but I've learned a couple things in that journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because it's so easy to have conflict just wherever you go. And then especially during this day and time when there's a lot of, racism that is hidden, that's not so hidden. It's great that that companies can reach out to you and help with that. So that's awesome. That is awesome. So Denise, tell us on that particular subject. And I know that conflict is just, there's so many areas that conflict can cover. We were talking about a little bit before we got started. There's conflict in schools, there's political conflict, it's all kind of conflict. But what are some common reasons that you have found out why people have conflict issues?
Well, we have conflict because we're humans. Right.
Yeah.
I think we've made conflict a bad word, and ineffective conflict is problematic, but it is possible to have successful conflict. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have limited resources that we have to compete for and allocate differently. So I think that the challenge is, how do we how do we align the way we look at conflict, and how do we create the optimal conditions for a successful conflict? I think too often people come to conflict like looking to win. I got to get in here and I got to win. And it's like, are you looking to air grievances, or are you looking to resolve differences? Right. And you have to ask, those are questions you have to ask in yourself, right? When you go into a situation that is conflictual, what is the outcome that you want? Sometimes people just want to be mad. They just want to vent. They want to feel vindicated. Sometimes people just want to be seen, acknowledged. Like, you have to take some time and look at yourself and identify what it is you want to get from that conflict. And then from there, it's easier to figure out what the best path to that outcome is. So I don't think conflict is a dirty word or a bad word. I think it's the human condition, right? Kids do it. If there's one cookie, I want it, you want it, let's go. We're gonna have a conflict over that cookie. And nobody's evil, nobody's terrible. That's the other thing. Like, there's this incredible temptation to make a person that disagrees with you your enemy. Right. And that framing, and I wish I didn't have to say the next thing, but social media has really fueled that. If someone disagrees with me, they are my enemy, so whatever they say is nonsense. I'm not even listening to what they have to say. Even if you show them the statistics, even if you show them the report, they don't believe it, they don't receive it, they don't, like, we've kind of gotten into this intensely adversarial mode, and we're being taught how to do conflict in ways that are ineffective and unhealthy. So in my work, what I try to do is really normalize conflict and talk about how we effectively address it.
Yeah, no, that's good. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about, you're talking about the outcome that you want, which leads us to another point. Pastor was saying yesterday in his message, and he was talking about actually avoiding arguments. And he said, your conflict with others is really a fight going on inside of you. And as I was thinking about that, that's true, because a lot of us, we're having this internal conflict from within ourselves, and it's leading to our outside conflict. So what do we do if, let's say, our internal conflict is, I'm just selfish. I want to win. It's all about me. And because I'm all about me and I have this internal whatever going on, I'm externalizing it with other people, and that's causing conflict. So what tips can you give to help people who have some internal conflict going on?
Well, I think it's the central issue, right? If you can master yourself, you can master the world, right? Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, most of us do not have self-mastery. We do not know how to time a conflict, right? Like, even something as simple as that. Hey, this happened at work. It really upset me. I'm offended by it. Let me think and slow down. When is the best time to have this conversation? Is it in front of everybody in the meeting? Is it later in a private conversation with the boss? Is it one-on-one with that individual? Is it at top of the morning, or is it at the end of the day? Is it right before they go to lunch? Like, there's so many choices of how you operate and how you think about how you're going to handle conflict. But you can't make any of those choices or those decisions if you don't have yourself under control, right? You cannot have an effective conflict when you are operating at an 11. You have to bring yourself under control before you can hope at any level to bring somebody else under control. You don't have you under control, right? So I think this idea of managing, and naming it, I think is also really important. What is the emotion that I'm feeling? Do I feel disrespected? Do I feel minimized? Do I feel invisible? Do I feel uncared for? Do I feel like, what is it that I'm feeling? Name it, identify it, so that you can manage it. Because you don't fight fire with fire, you fight fire with water, right? And you can't find that cool water if you are so hot and so enraged. I don't know about you, but I can't think when I'm that mad. I need to take a minute, take a step back. And also, it goes back to what I said earlier, is your intention to resolve the conflict, or is it to air grievances, right? And if I truly, sincerely want to resolve the conflict, I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. Right? So what is going to be the most effective route. And I think people hear, what's the right way to do it? And there's no right way, but there's effective ways. And that may mean sometimes you may have to be humble. You may have to be patient. You may have to bite your tongue and let the other person finish and get what they have to say off their chest. And all of these things are hard. They're hard for me, right? Like, I'm gonna really sit here and listen to her talk nonsense to me. Like, it's hard. But if you can't enter a situation, you can't manage a situation that you don't have the information for. So I often go into situations, okay, tell me what's going on. Like, let me just fill me in. What I want to understand how you're thinking about this. Can you share your perspective? And I just listen. I listen more than I talk, because I understand that I need to manage myself. And the best way to do that for me is to have as much information as possible before I make the next move. But the truth of the matter is, and this is hard, everybody doesn't like to hear this, but we create a lot of our conflict through avoidance. We let something that was this tiny grow into this big mountain, and then we want to blow up. And the truth of the matter is, it's your own fault. You teach people how to treat you. You are responsible for the way people handle you, especially the people in your normal everyday life. If you come home and you clean up after your kids, you got 4 kids, you clean up after those kids, you pick up everything off the floor, you put all the dishes, you pick up everything. You don't get to come home one day and say, why is this house so filthy? Why is it that, like, you taught those kids how to conduct themselves and what the rules of the relationship with you are, right? And you have to take ownership for that. So one of the things that I do that's about my internal control of myself is, what have I taught this person about me? How have I conducted myself? What experience of me have they had? Who do they think I am? Right? And try to be really honest about what I have been giving them permission to do, and take ownership of that. And if I've given them permission, whether verbally or tacitly or whatever, if I have allowed something to grow out of appropriate levels, I take ownership for that. I'll come to them and I'll say, I really have been thinking about our relationship, and I have to be honest that I haven't been forthright with you. There are times you were late the last 7 times we had lunch plans or dinner plans. You make me late for the movies. I am furious every single time, but I always say, no problem, don't worry about it, forget it. And I realize that I have taught you, I've been dishonest, because it does bother me when you're late all the time. It does bother me to be standing on the curb or waiting in the parking lot by myself. It does. But I didn't really tell you that. So I want to own that and just ask, can you honor going forward that timeliness is really important to me? So that's not about controlling other people. That's about controlling me and setting appropriate boundaries and being honest. If you don't like the way something is happening and you don't speak up about it every single time, that's right, you have co-signed that behavior, right? Now, I want to balance that. You don't have to go to every fight you're invited to. Right? I'm not saying you got to be in the street, you got to be taking your earrings off and putting Vaseline for every single fight you're invited to. You don't have to go to every issue is not a level 10 issue. That's the other thing. It's okay sometimes to let things slide if they don't matter. But if they do, you need to be honest. And sometimes our hesitancy about being direct, that's also a self-management issue. Are you, maybe you're afraid, wow, if I speak up about this, that person is going to withdraw their love from me. That may be a legacy from your childhood, from a previous relationship. If I speak up about this, that person is going to, it's going to alter our relationship forever. Well, if you being less of yourself and being perpetually harmed is what is required for that relationship, I need you to evaluate if that is the right relationship, right? So I think the courage to create the optimal conditions for a relationship is really important. And I use the word courage because it does take courage to set boundaries and to maintain them in respect, in kindness, in love. I think that, the Bible talks about doing things decently and in order, right? There's nothing wrong with being decent and in order. Like, that's fine. And it's okay to set that boundary to create that order in your life. And if you don't do that, it's hard for other people to do that for you.
Yeah, that is so good. You said a lot of things. You talked about avoiding. So if I'm in a conflict, let's say there's somebody on my job and I've tried all that, is it okay for me to just avoid them? Is it ever okay to do that?
I think that there's how I think about this is the question you asked is a very simple question, but it is the central biggest question, because I think sometimes it's not a conflict, it's a complete misalignment.
Okay.
And you cannot talk someone out of their character.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that one more time.
You
cannot talk someone out of their character. If I have a relative that whenever they come to my house, they steal from me, maybe they have a drug problem, maybe they have jealousy issues, they think I have a lot and they don't have a lot, and so they can have, I brought it to them, and I've said, hey, absolutely not. I think it is entirely appropriate to not invite them to your home anymore. I think it's entirely appropriate to set that boundary. You cannot talk someone out of their character, right? So I think that sometimes when we talk about conflict resolution, we present it as if it's our responsibility to resolve conflict with everyone, with the whole world, right? I don't go into, I'm working a DEI space. I don't go to Ku Klux Klan meetings. I don't go to Unite the Right meetings, right? Like, I'm not, because I understand that there's complete misalignment in that, in their goals and what they think is appropriate versus what I think is appropriate. So I think that your job is to always remain loving and to always remain kind and always remain open, but be clear about what that person's behavior necessitates in terms of boundaries and in terms of appropriateness. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. So if you have a coworker, for example, now people want to skip the step. They don't want to have the private conversation. They don't want to regulate themselves and try to find a resolution. Like, they want to jump right to the ignore. And ignore doesn't work if you haven't authentically tried to do these other steps of, and taking responsibility. Do you go in, you did this to me, you did that to me, you did that to me? Or do you say, I felt like this yesterday in our conversation, I walked away and I felt like that. Like, what a different energy that is, right? I'm taking responsibility. This is what I heard. Is that what you said? Is that what you meant? Everybody comes to these conversations from different perspectives, with different histories, with different behaviors. Some people, talk really loud and animated and energetic. And some people are very quiet and very, very staid in what they say. So it's easy for me to look at that person who speaks very softly and quietly. They're disinterested. They don't care. They're not even paying attention to me. And it's easy for me, the other person, to look at the loud person and say, why are they yelling at me? Why are they so in their feelings? Why are they so animated? Both are wrong. Like, they might feel exactly the same about the issue. So we got to slow down, and we have to give ourselves a chance to give the relationship a chance to recover. And I think that there's a grace in there that's very important. My husband is late for everything. I don't mean some things. I don't mean a few things. I mean everything. I love him, but he is late. So I can fight with him every day about lateness, or I can tell him we're leaving 30 minutes before we're supposed to leave. Or I can make the reservation myself, or I can drive myself to the theater. Here's your ticket. here's my ticket. I'll see you when we get there. I'll meet you there. Like, there are things that I can do to avoid the conflict, because I don't think the conflict is resolvable, right? That's a personality trait. I don't think he's doing it to harm me, but it impacts me in this way. So I want to alter things. That is not avoidance. If we talked about it, again, you can't change people's character. You can't change their personality. You can't change who they are. But what you can do is figure out, how do we need to fit together as people? I'm not right and you're wrong, and you're not right and I'm wrong. We need to figure out how we fit together. And so when you look at it that way, I think you just approach relationships differently.
Yeah, that's good, Denise. It's funny you say that, because I used to, in my house, I used to set the clocks 5 or 10 minutes back until somebody caught on. They were like, wait a minute, my watch says. I said, oh, I've been found out. But you're right. But that's a healthy way of dealing with it. And a lot of times we get so frustrated because we are trying to fix people. And that's not our job. That's God's job. We cannot fix people. But you're right. We all have these different personalities, and we have to learn how to adapt, to adjust, and to, like you said, pick our battles. I think all of us have dealt with conflict in a way that just wasn't right. You mentioned one way was shutting down. It's not healthy. What are some unhealthy ways? The news is full of unhealthy ways. Birmingham is like the top crime murder capital and it's a sad incident, but I'm sure it's coming from people who can't self-regulate or whatever. What are some unhealthy ways that people in a normal setting deal with conflict?
Yeah, definitely avoidance, but also explosion. I think that people use escalation of conflict as a tool, right? They know you're going to back down. If I get really loud and stuff, you're going to back down because you don't want the conflict, and you're going to, basically be punked by them. So they just kind of loud talk you and just kind of like escalate the conversation. We are talking about pizza. It is not that deep. How did we get to this like high energy, high octave conflict? Well, there's people that use that as a tactic to get their way. It's like a toddler. I know if I scream, they're going to give me that cookie. Right. So I'm going to scream until I get that cookie. Like, there are some adults that never lose that behavior of like, oh, how I am seen is by being loud, is by being insulting. Another way is passive aggressive behavior. I just won't invite you to that meeting. Oops, I just didn't CC you on the email. Oh, I forgot. You did not forget. Like, it's passive aggressive, and it's very low power. Right. That is, to me, that's the worst. Like, I want every person to step and live in their personal power. If I say eggs and you say peanut butter, we're going to disagree, but you're going to know how I feel and I'm going to know how you feel. And then we will go from there. But the passive aggressive, that just is not productive. Mm-hmm. And I also think the Pollyanna, the person that folds, they fold with every comment. Okay, sure, yeah. And they take a nobility in always folding, right? Like, I'm the nice, good person that always just agrees, and I'm just agreeable, and I'm meek and lowly. I don't think that's what meek and lowly means. Like, I want you to speak up for yourself. You have a role. I'm a mother. I'm an advocate for my child. If I go into the hospital and I feel like, hey, she said this hurts and nobody is paying attention to her, I have to escalate that conflict. I have to escalate that engagement. So I think this idea of thinking of conflict as inherently bad is a problematic way to live and deal with conflict. So there's a million ways to do it wrong, but thankfully there's a lot of ways to do it right too.
It is. And, you were talking about parent-child, and I'm thinking about, of course, we have 4 children. And the dilemma is, back in the day when I was growing up, is you did it and you don't say anything about it. You don't say how you feel. This is how it's supposed to be done. And so now we're learning with our parenting skills, okay, and help us as parents, when there's a conflict between parent and child, when can that child, how do you create the opportunity so that child can say, hey, can we talk about this? I didn't like this, and without it being explosive.
Yeah. This is so critical. And I think it's particularly critical for parents of minority children, because, and immigrant children, I would say both groups, because I think that our desire as parents is to send our children into the world powerful and capable, able to make their own decisions, able to stand up for themselves and advocate for themselves. We want them to go in and ask for that raise if they deserve it. We want them to set a boundary if somebody at work is claiming credit for what they did, right? We want them to know how to articulate justice and request and require justice in their adult life. But we withhold that from them as children. You have multiple kids. I experienced this with my brothers. My brother comes in, he hits me, and I cry, or I let and noise ensues, and my mother telephones in, and she says, "What are y'all doing? Y'all need to stop fighting." Wait a minute. Do we need to all stop fighting, or does he need to stop hitting me? And it seems like a very small thing, but we choose peace over justice. And when we do that, we do not teach our children that they are worthy of justice and fairness. If we do not allow our children to disagree with us, how will they be able to stand up against a world that is disagreeable to them? We haven't given them the skills, right? They don't have the ability. We are not all taught to disagree without destruction. It is possible to disagree without destruction. And I think that is the most powerful skill we can give our children, but we deny it from them. We withhold it from them because under the auspices of requiring obedience, right? And hey, obedience is important. I'm not down on obedience, but what's the job? The job that we all have is to equip them to navigate the world. They can't even navigate us. They can't even navigate us. How are they going to navigate the world? So we want them to regulate what they do when they meet a police officer, what they do when they have a person, especially for minority children. You don't know. I'm thinking about the story of Sesame Place, of the little children that were overlooked. Like literally, when you are a minority child, you literally don't know where racism is going to pop up its ugly head. You just never know where it's going to come from. Have we equipped our children to deal with that? Have we given them a voice? And if they can't talk to us, the people who are the safest place in the world for them, they can't verbalize and articulate what they want, how are they going to do it in their marriage? How are they going to do it at work? How are they going to do it in their daily lives? So it's a critical space. It's one of the most important gifts you can give your children, is the right to their voice.
Yeah.
Right? An audience, and the right to request and seek out justice, to disagree with you, to say, Mom, can your child come to you and say, I don't want to go to college. Here's my plan. And bust out what their plan is of what they want to do with their lives. Are you going to, lose a blood vessel, right? And not to say you have to agree or disagree, but do you even listen? Do you even give them a chance to articulate their position? You may have the next Mark Zuckerberg in your house, but you squash that spirit because it had to be your way and it had to be under control. So I think of conflict resolution skills as one of the greatest gifts we can give our children. And it just can't be underscored enough.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that conflict resolution. What does that look like in most settings? How can we, at some point, there's going to be conflict. So what are some healthy ways that we can resolve that conflict?
Well, I think the first thing is schedule it, right? I just walked in from work. I'm exhausted. I came in an hour of traffic. And you come in hot. Why didn't you? I can't even process what you're saying right now, right? Like, schedule it. think about when and where that conflict is going to take place. Regulate yourself. Calm down. Think, what is it that you want? Right? I'm amazed how many people engage in conflict, but they have no desired articulable requests. How can you have to give people a way out of conflict. If you're coming to me to talk to me about something, there has to be a way out, a way forward. Have you even thought about what that way forward is, right? When possible, look for win-win solutions, right? Look for ways that everybody can get what they need, right? I want pizza for dinner. No, I want Mexican. Okay, well, I mean, can we just order Uber Eats and everybody just order what they want? So sometimes you can do that. You could just like, okay, what is your goal? My goal is that everybody eats and they're happy. Okay, what's going to make that happen? Right? Like, I think sometimes like really focusing in on what your objective is. What is the optimal result of this situation? Right? So maybe I don't like the way you did it, but you know what? The ultimate goal is I wanted X to happen. So, okay. And that helps me to release control of situations. I have some situations in my life right now that I'm like, you know what? If you like it, I love it.
That's right.
It's not how I would have done it, but hey, all the paths lead to the same place. And the bottom line is sometimes that self-regulation piece. And sometimes I have to write it down. What is the best scenario? Oh, I want that person to be happy. Okay. Are they happy over there? Happy it is. Crisis averted. Problem solved. So I think this question of like identifying what it is inside of you, figuring out what you want to have happen. And again, that word effective. Is it going to be effective if I come in cursing and yelling and screaming? I don't think so. Is it going to be effective if I just give the silent treatment for 2 weeks? I don't think so. Is it going to be effective if I do a whole bunch of name calling and we're having a conflict about X? And I bring in A, B, D, J, L, like from 6 years ago, is that going to help us resolve this conflict? No. So I think it's really, really important to just regulate and figure out what it is you want, and then figure out the cleanest, simplest, kindest way to get there.
Yeah, that's good. When you were talking, I was thinking about one of our children. I used to be, when they were getting dressed, you got to have this on, have it laid out. And then the one of our children, he could have on all yellow and he will put on red socks. The goal is you're dressed, whatever. So I've learned that. It took me a while to learn that, but you're right. The common goal is that you're dressed and it's clean and, there's no holes in it. So, right. Hey, you're dressed right. You like it. I love it. Like you say, right. And
I don't have to break your spirit.
Right.
If you ask every parent, they want their child to be free.
Right.
We don't want to let them pick their socks. I mean, it's like I try to align, and this is just for every subject on earth. I try to align my activities with my goals. Yeah. Right. If I say I want to be healthy, then I've got to exercise 3 times a week. If I say I want to save money, then I have to automatically, put money in the savings account I have to align my activities with my goals. What are your goals for your children? What do you want for them? What do you want when they're an adult? What do you want them to be able to do? Make their own decisions? Then let them pick their socks. Let them order food. We don't let, even something as simple as letting our child order the food in the restaurant. What do you want to eat? No, we tell them what they're going to eat. Right? Like you can't even choose. I can't even choose what food I put in my stomach. But then we want them to be independent and dynamic and powerful and make good decisions and be like, where are they going to learn that?
Right. At home, supposedly. Yeah.
And the world will teach them. If they don't advocate, they don't get the good job. They won't get the promotion. They won't get, they might get not get the house that they want. They may not get like the bride or the mate that they want. Like there's no greater skill than the skill of self-advocacy, right? And we have an opportunity almost every day to teach our kids to have that. And so what I see in my work is a bunch of adults that nobody ever let them choose. And so they're going to choose today. They're going to make it, and they don't have the skill set to resolve conflict. Conflict is always angry. It's always, I'm pushed up against the wall. What if we teach our kids? Doesn't have to be angry. You can say, I don't like pizza. I don't want that. I don't even want to taste anchovies. No, you could taste it. You could just at least taste it before you say you don't like it. I don't want to taste it. I don't like how it smells. Like, do I have to eat anchovies? No, but it's like, I have a desire, and we elevate our desire for control. And that is not in alignment with what we say our ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is that they are self-advocating, powerful, discerning, wise people with good judgment. And like, that's what we want. So what are we doing over here to get the deliverable over here?
Right. That's awesome. That's good. In the event, you have a company. Of course, companies can bring you in if there's a resolution that just cannot be, if there's a conflict can't be resolved. But when should you bring a third person to kind of help manage this conflict? When are the red flags like, okay, we need to bring somebody else in because this isn't going anywhere?
Okay, so this is a tricky one. Because remember I said earlier that you can't talk someone out of their character, right?
Yeah.
That there are times where we do not have a skill set. There's the difference between skills and willingness, skills and desire, like knowledge and desire is probably a better way to do that. That I think when you have two people who have the desire for the conflict to be resolved, they just don't have the skills to do it themselves. Right. That's a great time to bring in a third party. Now, bringing a third party does not mean go tell your mother-in-law, tell your mom everything that happened, go bring your sister into your marriage, go embarrass your children by calling, somebody and talking to the phone loud while your children can hear you. Can you believe she did the. That is not bringing in a third party. So I want to be very, very clear. The goal is never to humiliate or to diminish or to bully the other person into doing what you want them to do. It's we have these shared goals, and we cannot figure out how to get there. Especially if there's any element of, of course, there shouldn't ever be violence in any conflict, in any relationship. That's unacceptable. But that's definitely the time that you need to bring in some advice and some counsel around how to manage it. But I think the idea of picking someone, choosing someone that you both respect, I think that's also really important. Right. I think sometimes people jury shop. They pick the person to bring in that's going to agree with everything they say, So I think really working and try to find somebody that's going to be fair and objective is super important. But I think it's all of that conversation should revolve around the skill set, right? It's very much like, am I giving you a fish or am I teaching you how to fish, right? Because I can help you make a decision on something you have a disagreement on. Should we stay in Chicago or should we move to New York, right? That's a specific decision we have a disagreement on, and somebody can come and help you make that specific decision. But what you really need is the skills to make those decisions yourself. We weren't all taught how to fight fair. We weren't all taught how to disagree and how to have productive, successful disagreements. So I think if you bring in that third party, that needs to be the focus. I want to learn how to do this better so that I don't rely on someone else to come in every time we have a disagreement, right? It's a skill set that you want to build. And acknowledgement that I don't know how to communicate well, or, I'm really having trouble articulating this. And I get so mad, I lose my temper, I say things I don't mean. Like, I think there's a self-awareness that both parties have to have going into that situation if you really want it to be successful. But it's not a person coming in to just, save the day. Right? Like, you need to make sure that your commitment is to learning the skill set. We just all didn't get it as children, and so we're catching up, but that's okay, because we can. Right? We're smart, we're still here. Right? We're smart, and we can learn, and we can grow, and we can improve. I mean, that's the whole concept of faith, is that every day I have the capacity to be better than I was yesterday. And so I think that optimism around your ability to increase in that skill set is what is needed to bring into that third party situation.
Yeah. Man, this was so good. And you're right, that third person can't be, because you're right, because sometimes, we pick somebody who is going to be on our side, but it don't, like you said, doesn't need to be your mother-in-law, because Pastor does a lot of counseling, and he always said, your in-laws need to be in the back seat, y'all be in the front seat. You need to have somebody else, a counselor who can help, with those differences. But man, this has been awesome, so helpful. Denise, I know you are doing a lot. Can you end with, I'm going to have you go ahead and talk about kind of what you're doing, what you're working on, how people can follow you. And then we'll have a couple of announcements on my end, but then I want you to finish up with just some closing remarks. Okay. So what you got going on?
So I'm writing a book right now. The name of the book is Indivisible. And it really is an extension of what we've been talking about today, of just how we are at a space right now where we're so divided, and what would it look like to really come together. And, if you remember the Pledge of Allegiance that we all said when we were kids, like, whatever happened to that word indivisible? You don't ever even hear it anyplace else. And I was like, let's bring that back. Let's give it a chance. And so my book is about the things that keep us divided, and the things that have the capacity to bring us together. And then some success stories that I've seen in my work, because I really believe it's possible. I believe if we can figure out how to be indivisible, we'll be indestructible. Wow. So that's the goal. That's what I'm working on. I'm here right now in this hotel room. We're having a deep writing session, trying to get through as much as possible. And the book will be released by the publisher spring of next year.
Good. Awesome. Wonderful. And how can we follow you on Instagram and Facebook? I know you're Denise Hamilton, but I think on Instagram, you're official something.
Official D Ham.
Yes.
Like Denise Hamilton, D Ham, official D Ham, everywhere. Just and I really think it's important to feed what you want to grow. I always encourage people to follow, especially women of color, on social media, because it's a free vote that says our voices matter, our sharing, our wisdom matters, and we want to be a part of the experience. So I think there's no greater gift than the gift of your attention. So I really appreciate just listening and being interested in what I have to say in this platform today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you have given us a lot of just good tidbits. We have shared it with parent groups, we've shared it with our seniors, and we've had actually people watching. So thank you for your time on today. I'm just going to do a quick few announcements, and then I do want you to make sure that you finish us off and to give us some good takeaways from today. Well, guys, you have heard Denise Hamilton talk to us about handling conflict. What a great discussion. We're actually going to go back and we're going to reshare, rebroadcast it later on this evening so we can make sure we are hitting all of our audience. But what a great discussion on handling conflict. Listen, a lot of times, like she said, we did not learn this as children. And so now as adults, we are having to really learn these skills, these skill sets that nobody really taught us about. So please make sure you share it. Of course, on next week, we're going to have Dr. Cree Johnson. She is a board certified physician. She's going to talk about staying healthy. We really need to know that now with COVID, monkeypox, all kind of things are going on. Kids are back in school. They're touching each other and all this kind of stuff. And so she's going to teach us how to stay healthy. So I am looking forward to that discussion on next week. So make sure you join us here 12 noon Central Standard Time. Our small groups on this Saturday, they begin. It is called Life Healing Choices. A great small group because it talks a little bit about what we talked about today. We are not God. We cannot fix anybody. And so it is really a good curriculum on even how to deal emotionally with things. And so listen, if you want to be a part of this private Zoom, send us an email at smallgroups@bhambc.org, smallgroups@bhambc.org, so we can send you that private Zoom information. Again, we start this Saturday and the time is 10 a.m. We will also see you on Sunday. We are going to be virtual. Pastor started a new series called the Master's Class on Prayer. And so, of course, you all know that we need prayer during this time more now than ever. And so he is doing a really in-depth lesson on the Master's Class on Prayer. So join us 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, it's millennial service. And so they are going to be running the show on Sunday. Our children are going to be leading us. They're going to be greeting us. They're going to sing. They're going to do all sorts of things. So make sure you log in to support them as well. We are starting a new financial Facebook group, and this is private as well. We're going to have some financial experts to come on and share their knowledge about investing, saving, budgeting. If you want to be a part of this, please send us an email at finance@bhambc.org. That is finance@bhambc.org. We're going to upload videos on a monthly basis. That way you can look at it at your leisure. This Saturday, we're also uploading a singles video. So those of you who are single, we are uploading that video this weekend. If you are interested, please send us an email at singles@bhambc.org. That is singles@bhambc.org. Don't forget, Pastor Mason is on oneplace.com. If you want to hear great inspirational preaching and teaching on the go, go to oneplace.com and do a search for his name, Dr. James H. Mason III. He is also on a variety of podcasts, about 6 different ones, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Of course, you can go to our website at bhambc.org, and then you can scroll to the bottom and you can actually click on the various podcasts that are going forward. Don't forget, studying the scriptures every Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. We are walking through the book of James. Like I mentioned earlier, for the past couple of weeks, he's been talking about the answer to avoiding arguments. So on time with what Miss Denise has shared with us on today. So that is all we have for you on today. Thank you, Denise, for taking time out of your writing schedule to be here with us today. We are so appreciative. Thank you for giving up and not being selfish with your time. So can you please give us some, just a few takeaways? You gave us so much. I took notes. And so can you give us a few takeaways for our audience?
Sure. I think the very first thing is conflict is not bad. Conflict is neutral. It's just, are you going to do it effectively and successfully, or are you going to do it ineffectively and in a way that is destructive? I believe that it's really imperative that we learn how to disagree without destruction, and that we learn how to advocate for ourselves and set boundaries in love, but set them nevertheless. And I want you to really remember that you teach people how to treat you. So the behavior that you allow to grow beyond manageability, be honest with yourself. Was there a place earlier in that relationship that you could have addressed that behavior? Conjure up the fear. I know it can be hard sometimes to kind of speak up for yourself, but you save yourself a little discomfort here and exchange it for a lot of conflict down the road. So I really want to encourage us to deal with problems when they're much smaller and more manageable, and be direct and find your voice. And specifically about our children, we want them to resolve our conflict without violence. So let's be easy with the violence. We want them to resolve we want them to be able to make choices on themselves. Let's let them make some choices, right? Like we are in charge. I get to be at the tail end of seeing a lot of adults who do not know how to resolve conflict. And I think we have an opportunity with every child in our midst to make sure we are empowering them to make good decisions and to advocate for themselves. So let's make sure we are feeding what we want to grow, and we're shaping them into the adults we want to be, that are self-advocating, discerning, wise, and have great judgment.
Awesome. Thank you. When you were talking, Denise, I also was thinking about, and we can't penalize people, our children, our coworkers, or whoever, when they tell us how they feel. So we have to make sure we're not reacting or overreacting.
Really.
Because then they're shut down.
We have to be a lover of truth.
Yeah.
Right? Do you love the truth? Would you rather people lie to you? Would you rather them to be dishonest? Like, Mom, I don't want to do this, or honey, I don't really like going over there with your friends because they did it. Like we can process truth, but we can't operate in a theater of lies. So we have to create an open dialogue that people can tell us the truth so we can tackle it. But if you create an environment that people can't tell you the truth, you can't be mad when you get lies.
My goodness. Wow. That's another conversation. Thank you so much, Denise. We appreciate this. Blessings to you. Please don't forget, text us when that book comes out. When you say it's coming out in the spring. But yeah, please let us know. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you and your team.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.